Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cinema Heroes. I'm Justin Speck.
Jake Stu.
And today we're talking about Batman Year One. Released in 2011, directed by Sam Liu and Lauren Montgomery, written by Tab Murphy, based on the graphic novel by Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli, I think is how you say that, and starring Bryan Cranston, Ben McKenzie, Eliza Dushku, John Polito, Alex Rocco, and Katie Sackhoff. This was one of the first DC animated movies that came out. 2011 is pretty... I think the Superman Doomsday came out in 2007, so I guess this was 4 years into it, but they kind of were only releasing one a year back then, I think.
Yeah.
So this one came out when I was living in California, and I don't think I got to buy it right away because I was pretty broke when I first moved to California, but I did watch it and was actually pretty impressed with it. What about you? When did you watch this one?
I watched it not the year that came out, maybe the year after. I like it. There were some things that I don't like about it, but we'll get into that in a minute. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good adaptation.
Nice. Yeah, me too. I thought so too. I had read the comic before. I probably had been a while, but I had read the comic before, and I actually watching it this time kind of had the comic open while I was watching it, and it's almost pretty much a scene for scene adaptation of the book, so it's pretty close. Yeah, I think I was pretty impressed with it. I remember thinking it was Batman Under the Red Hood came out before this, and that one was really, really good, and so I thought this one was maybe not quite as good as that one, but it was up there. You know, I thought it was pretty solid.
Yeah, Under the Red Hood, in my opinion, is one of the best animated DC films ever. But this is pretty good. I definitely I definitely like the tone that they went for it. I mean, they were matching the tone of the source material. But I admire them for going, like, leaning all the way into it.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because we had talked about with Superman, Batman, Public Enemies, how there was a lot of voiceover in the graphic novel, and then like Dark Knight Returns, is a Frank Miller book as well, and there's a lot of voiceover in that, and they decided to cut those out for those adaptations, but for this one, it has all the voiceover in it. We hear all of
it's necessary.
Yeah.
You can't cut it out.
I agree. I don't think the movie would be nearly as good if you didn't have, Batman's inner monologue and Gordon's inner monologue and all that stuff. So yeah, it works for me. I don't know if this is a controversial opinion, but I think the one thing I don't really like about this movie is actually the casting of Ben McKenzie. I don't think he's...
Yes.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. He's not good as Batman.
He's not good. I like Ben McKenzie. He was, I didn't really watch the show, but I watched most of the first season, and he was a good Gordon on Gotham. But Bryan Cranston as James Gordon is amazing.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. But Ben McKenzie, I wish they had cast somebody a little stronger as Batman. Because he doesn't, and I know they were probably trying to go for maybe a younger sounding voice because it's Batman Year One, but it didn't work. I wish
too monotone. He sounds like a robot.
And when he's doing Batman, he sounds like he's trying to do a Batman voice. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, like when he comes in, he's like, "None of you are safe." It just didn't resonate like it would have if it had been Kevin Conroy.
I mean, even Bruce Green.
Yeah. Very true. So I think that's, in my opinion, that's kind of the one detractor of this movie is Ben McKenzie just doesn't quite work for me. Yeah. I don't know how other people feel about it, but yeah, he's as Bruce Wayne, okay, but as Batman, he definitely not. But you're right, even as Bruce Wayne, he's very monotone, and yeah, it doesn't quite work. It's a very short movie. It's only 64 minutes long. It's only an hour basically, but I think it's paced pretty well. I mean, it's because it's only an hour, it doesn't feel like there's anything that I would really cut out of the movie or anything. Although the Catwoman stuff to me kind of feels like it goes nowhere. You know, Selena sees Bruce when before he even puts on a mask, and they get into a little bit of a fight, and you kind of see how well trained she is, I guess. But then eventually she starts dressing up and becoming a cat burglar, and they blame it on Batman, which just makes her mad. And then they call her Batman's assistant, which makes her even more mad. And then I don't think we see her again. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm trying to remember if there's a scene after that, but I feel like
I don't think we do.
Yeah, I don't think they wrapped up. It felt like her storyline didn't get wrapped up. But I also don't think it's in the comic either. I don't think they wrap it up in the comic.
It's been so long since I've read Batman Year One, so I couldn't recall. But yeah, I agree. It's definitely very well paced. And another thing that I really like about it is that and this is true for the source material, that it's mostly a Jim Gordon story.
Yeah.
With Batman in it. I mean, I mean, obviously it's Batman centered, but like it's most of it is from Jim Gordon's perspective.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's one of the coolest aspects of both the comic and the movie, and especially when you have somebody as strong as Bryan Cranston playing Jim Gordon. It's, I mean, he's just like you said, he's phenomenal, and so it's Batman Begins obviously took a lot from Batman Year One, and so watching this actually made me want to watch Batman Begins.
Yeah, same. But Batman Begins was supposed to be Year One when I think Darren Aronofsky was attached to it.
Yeah. Can you imagine a Darren Aronofsky Batman movie?
Bruh. That'd be one weird movie.
Yes, I agree. It's just like when he was attached to the Wolverine. I really wanted to see a Darren Aronofsky Wolverine movie, but but yeah, I actually really kind of like that it's almost more of a Gordon story than a Batman story. It's really cool. And I also I enjoy, you know, we had talked about on Batman Mask of the Phantasm how we had never really seen a Batman Year One, at least in animated or live action form. Obviously, this comic had come out before Batman Mask of the Phantasm. And so I really like, you know, it's not something I would want to see every, you know, Batman Begins did it perfectly, so we don't necessarily need to see another Batman origin story. But I like these origins of Gordon and Batman kind of learning to respect each other and become friends and colleagues, I guess you could say, kind of. I always kind of find that interesting.
Yeah, for sure. It's nice seeing the relationship develop. I mean, honestly, for me, and this goes for all DC characters for the most part, especially Batman and Superman. I love seeing the characters deconstructed and being built up to the characters that we know, because it's easy to do a traditional story, but I'm more interested in why they are the way they are, which is what, you know, which is something that drew me to this movie. So
I love the story of Gordon being like the one good cop in the city of a bunch of terrible cops, and seeing his whole plot line of taking down like the corrupt commissioner and and I can't remember the guy's name now, but there's the one character, Brendan, who just guns blazing, doesn't care. You know, I think I remember Gordon at one point gets or hears like the dispatcher say something about Brendan's on the way, and he's like, Brendan, he's like, it'll be a bloodbath, and turns the car around to try to get there. You know, he's like, that'll be terrible. So it's just, and they, again, not to compare too much to Batman Begins, but they did that really well in Batman Begins. They even took a lot of the character names from the book. Flass, Commissioner Loeb, you know, that was taken from this comic, I think. And so it's you know, I just really like it. The one kind of good cop standing up to all the corruption in the city, and then eventually, obviously, having Batman on your side and being able to really make a difference. It's just cool. It's a cool story to me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Jim Gordon, he's a reformer. He has a very strong sense of of right and wrong, and um, he's a very black and white type person. Um, but one thing that I do love about this movie is that he like you said, he's the one good cop amongst a bunch of corrupt cops, and he's the new guy in town as well. So they don't trust him, so they beat him up to teach him a lesson. And I love the fact that he runs Flash off the road and just hands it to him.
Yeah. Yep. He even says he's like, I need to give him a handicap, and throws him the bat,
So he
And I
gave him the
like,
back.
yeah. And I like the monologue he has afterwards. He's like, he won't report it. He'll make up some story that involves at least 10 attackers, like, which is so true. And they don't really go into it, but he obviously doesn't report it because nothing happens to Gordon. And then I like how when Batman beats up Flash, everybody thinks Flash is nuts because he's like, he's not human, man. And they're all like, okay, Flash, whatever. He's like, I'm telling you, he's not
Yo,
human.
who he reminded me of? He reminded me of Hudson in Aliens.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The Bill Paxton character.
Yeah, yeah, Bill Paxton.
I'm finding it almost hard to talk about. Oh, I guess let's talk about some of the other voice actors. So I actually wrote down, aside from Ben McKenzie, I think the voice actors in this movie are really strong. John Polito as Commissioner Loeb, I think, was
I agree.
amazing. Alex Rocco
Yeah, yeah, I
as
agree.
Falcone is incredible. Um, and Eliza Dushku as Selena is even pretty good. Katie Sackhoff plays Commissioner Essen, I think it is. Uh,
And
yeah,
Sarah,
Sarah Essen, who Gordon ends up having an affair with. What did you think about that plot line?
I liked it. It definitely uh for lack of a better word, it humanizes him, even though he's already
That
human. But
exactly, yeah, it's exactly what I think. Yep.
it made him more of a real person, even though he does have a strong sense of right and wrong. He's still flawed, and he still feels terrible about it.
Yes, and I agree. Even though he is a human character, Commissioner Gordon is this good cop amongst a bunch of corrupt cops. So he kind of
Mhm.
almost can be too good. You know what I mean? Like he can almost be
Yeah,
unbelievable.
yeah.
And so
He's often represented as one
right.
dimensional.
And so giving him this plot line, even though you feel bad for Barbara, especially since she's pregnant,
Hmm.
and people might hate him for it, which I could totally understand, but it just makes him. It kind of almost humanizes him, and then you really have to kind of respect the fact that granted, he's kind of forced to do it because they're going to blackmail him, but he comes
Yeah,
clean to his wife and says, "We got to talk about this," and so
yeah.
then when they try to blackmail him,
Knowing,
it doesn't work because she already knows about it.
yeah, knowing Jim Gordon, I feel like the type of person he is. He would have told her on his
Yeah,
own
I think so
anyway.
too.
Eventually, maybe not at that point, but he eventually the guilt would have eaten him up, and he would have
Yeah,
told her,
I agree.
because he's a good person. He's too good
To
to
sweep that
not
under the rug,
to
and
not
yeah,
come clean.
exactly.
Yeah.
I agree.
Animation. I love the
Yes.
animation. It is very much reminiscent of the source material, and I love how closely they stick to it. One of my favorite shots is of Jim Gordon, um when the reflection hits his glasses and they're all like whited
Hmm.
out. Oh my god, I love that shot.
Yes, I thought the same thing when I was watching it. The animation in this movie is awesome, and I really kind of almost wish
Yeah.
the animation for this new Tomorrowverse, I guess that you call it, starting with Superman Man of Tomorrow, with like the real thick outlines and stuff. It's not bad. I don't mind it, but I kind of wish they
Hmm.
would do a couple more movies with this style animation. And I know they're probably trying to emulate
Yes.
the comic, but this animation is so good. I would
Yeah,
love to see another Batman movie or Justice League movie in this style animation. I think it's amazing.
yeah, I agree. The thing about the Tomorrowverse animation, like I like it for Superman, Man of Tomorrow. I like it for Green Lantern, Beware My Power. And even though I think uh Long Halloween parts 1 and 2 are the best in that universe so far, I think that they would have benefited from having animation closer to the
I
source
agree.
material.
If they had tried to kind of make it look like Tim Sale's artwork, yeah, I think that. Yeah,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
I think that would have been cool. The animation, like you said, doesn't bother me, and I think it does look pretty good for Superman. And I haven't watched Green Lantern yet, and it looks good for Long Halloween. But even if they had done this animation for Long Halloween, that would have been awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that
Yeah.
they did that for a while, trying to kind of copy the artist's art as closely as they could, it's kind of a shame they
Mm-hmm.
didn't do it for Long Halloween.
Yeah. They did it for All Star Superman
They
as
did,
well,
yeah, you're right.
which is I can't wait
I
to talk
know,
about
yeah,
that
me
movie.
too. Yeah, they were doing it for a while, like because I think the Killing Joke they kind of tried to follow that artist who's I can't remember his name now at the moment, but I know it's Arthur Moore or Alan Moore, but I can't remember the artist. Bryan something, I think.
Neither can I. Yeah, I can't
Either
remember.
that, or maybe that's Watchmen. But anyway, they did it for Killing Joke. They did it for Superman, Batman, Public Enemies. They did it for Superman, Batman, Apocalypse. They did it
Mm-hmm.
for Dark Knight Returns. They did it. They kind of tried to copy Frank Miller's art, as pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
But with the Tomorrowverse, I guess they're just trying to establish, and the New 52 universe was all that kind of anime style. And so I guess they're just trying to stick with they're trying to make it somewhat, what's the word I'm looking for? Consistent, I guess, across the universe. The beginning of the DC animated movies, they were all standalone stories based on graphic novels, so it wasn't a connected universe. They were all separate stories. So they could do the
Mm-hmm.
copying the art style of the comic because it didn't matter.
Yeah, I think that's what they're doing now with the Tomorrowverse. I don't think they have any plans on uh teaming that iteration of the characters up. Um, I think it's to be assumed that they take place in the same universe, but I don't foresee them becoming the Justice League within that universe.
It would be interesting if it did. Since I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's a good question because I agree. I don't see them really having the Batman from Batman Long Halloween joining with the Superman from Superman Man of Tomorrow, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they're keeping it in the same animation style. I don't know. That's weird. It's a weird choice, I guess.
Yeah.
It's I do like how in this iteration of Batman's beginning of his career, he is actually wearing tights. Alfred even says, like, "Do you want me to fetch your tights?" And so he gets shot a couple times and he's bleeding. He's like, maybe he will
Yeah.
eventually learn he's got to armor up a little bit. He can't just run around in
Yeah.
tights.
That's it. That's one thing. That's one thing I like about these type of Batman stories. I like a flawed
Mm-hmm.
Batman. We often see Batman at his peak.
Right.
Um, I like seeing a younger Batman, which is one of the reasons why Long Halloween the movies are so good. Is that he has to learn how to be a detective, and this he has to learn how to do everything. He has to learn how to be Batman. He has to
Yeah.
learn how to be a detective. He has to learn how to be stealthy. He has to learn how to protect himself. It's just everything is so new to him, and he has no idea what he's
Right.
doing. And to me that's
It is
interesting.
interesting. I agree. When he first dresses up in the actual bat suit and tries to stop these kids on a fire escape from stealing a TV, I think one of them gets scared and almost falls off the fire escape, and he immediately is like, "Oh crap!" and has to like go grab him. But then he starts getting beat up from the other kids because he's distracted by the falling kid, and so it's a really interesting scene. I agree. It makes Batman pretty interesting. Obviously, we really like seeing Batman at his peak because that's fun too. Just seeing him be able to take down a whole bunch of thugs and whatever without breaking a sweat. But it's also I do agree it's fun seeing him figure it out, and that's part of what we liked about the Robert Pattinson Batman was he was still kind of figuring things out, and so it makes for an interesting character, I think, when he's not at his 100% yet. So
yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing peak Battinson. Like that's something I definitely want to see.
Yeah. The scene that's on my TV at the moment is probably one of the best scenes in the movie, where there's a truck driver who falls asleep, and Gordon notices that the truck driver has either had a heart attack or fallen asleep or something. And so he spins his car around to go after the truck, and he ends up jumping out of his squad car and hanging off the side of the truck, and then he sees a pedestrian, and Batman saves the pedestrian, which kind of throws Gordon off because Gordon has thought that this guy is a vigilante who's terrorizing it doesn't even consider him a vigilante. I think he thinks he's like terrorizing the city, basically, even though
just a straight up
right, even though he is going after other criminals. And so then he ends up in this like abandoned building, Batman does, and that's when Brendan wants to show up, and Gordon is, outside. And just the whole, they end up bombing the building to try to get Batman, and he's in this burning building, and it's a great scene, and he's struggling because, again, he's learning, but he also takes out a lot of those thugs pretty easily, and that's fun to watch too. And then he ends up using
I agree.
the sonar in his boot, which again, they put in Batman Begins and is incredible. So yeah, it's a really good Batman scene, and again, I kind of wish it was a different voice actor.
I agree that scene is on. It just started now. Gordon is chasing the truck, but I agree, and I remember watching Batman Begins, and when it got to that scene, I was like, "Yo, they ripped that straight out of
Year One,
Batman Year One." So that definitely made me excited.
This scene is also a little reminiscent of The Dark Knight too, where when these when the SWAT team is trying to take down the doctors and the hostages and stuff, and he's just taking out SWAT team members and throwing them off, tying them up and throwing them off buildings and everything. It's pretty reminiscent of that. I like how Batman also saves the cat, which is again in the comic, but like he gets shot saving the cat, which makes Catwoman be like,
hearing you say that is funny.
I know it's a little
because I keep thinking of Blake Snyder.
Right, cat. Yeah.
Like, he literally
saves the cat. Let's talk a little bit about the score. I don't know who did the score. Let me look on here if it has music by Christopher Drake. That's why it's good. So it's the music is not in your face in this movie. It's kind of very subtle. It's almost like an ambiance, but there's a couple of times I noticed like with Gordon driving, it just kind of had this like almost kind of like a ticking sound. It was like a but it was just kind of a really subtle driving kind of score. And I don't think they ever released the soundtrack for this movie, but I remember thinking like the score like really works for this movie. It's kind of there's elements of kind of noir, but it's also just got kind of I don't know how to describe it, but it was just really, it was subtle, but it really worked for the movie. Like I think Christopher Drake did a good job with the score in this movie.
Now, this is the rare occasion where I don't remember this score, and I think it was because it's so subtle, and there are a lot of scenes with no music.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't really remember what it what it sounds like. But I mean, Christopher Drake is known for doing some fantastic
Yeah.
music for these movies, especially his Batman stuff is
Hmm.
just phenomenal.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he did Under the Red Hood too, and the music for that movie is
He
so
did.
good.
He did Under the Red Hood. He did Dark Knight
Yep, he did.
Returns.
And
Yeah.
I didn't he do one of the Arkham games?
Was that Christopher Drake?
I want to say he did Origins.
Origins. Yes,
Yeah, he
yeah.
did.
Cause
Yep.
he did the it was a
Yeah,
Christmas type score.
Carol of the
Oh
Bells.
man. Yeah,
Yeah.
Carol of the
Yep.
Bells. Yeah, that was the fact that they made Joker's theme, the Carol of the Bells, that I thought that was
Yeah.
genius.
I kind of wish they would re-release that game, even though, in my opinion, it's probably the weakest of the three or the four Arkham games. Especially since Kevin
It
Conroy's not the
is.
voice of Batman or Mark Hamill.
See, it for me, that's not why it's weak. The thing about it is that and I say the same thing about um Arkham Knight. They straight up lied to us and told us that Joker wasn't the villain. Joker wasn't going to be in the
Right,
game.
right.
And lo and behold, he is in the game. He's the main villain pulling
Yeah.
strings. Now the story was still good. It's just that I understand that you wanted to like keep it under wraps, but I don't know. They should have gone a different way with trying to conceal
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And another thing is that game was just broken.
Right.
It wasn't finished. They rushed it. It froze up all the time. But like if when it worked, I really liked the
Yeah.
game. That's one game that I think needs a remaster. They're not gonna do it,
No.
but
I don't
they should definitely get a
I agree.
remaster.
I would play it again if they remastered it.
Hmm.
I remember the one thing that bugged me about it was in Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, and I don't remember what the controls are exactly, but like I think it was like L1 or
Hmm.
something put you in detective mode. And they
Hmm.
swapped it for Origin, so it was like R1 or something. So I remember throughout the entire game, I kept hitting the
Yeah.
wrong button, and I'd like throw a batarang or something when I was trying to go into detective mode, and I was like, God. But no, but one of the things I really like about Origins is that it's set during Christmas time. I think Batman
Yeah.
stories set at Christmas time just work, you know. So
Yes, they do. They do. Cold and at
right,
night, like
snowy
that's
and
that's
everything.
perfect.
Yeah, I love
That's
it.
perfect.
And that in that story too, Gordon doesn't really know or trust Batman yet, so that it's kind of cool. But yeah, I might have to bust out a PS3 and play it again just to go through the story again. But
Now that you mentioned the weather, I was thinking about a Batman movie set in the summertime, like Summer of
right,
Sam
right, right.
type Batman movie. Like
During a
that
heat
would be
wave in Gotham,
just during a heat wave, and he's in a bat
right?
suit, and so like he's incredibly irritable because he's hot. Oh man, like I need that Batman movie.
Comes back to the Batcave, takes off his mask. He's just like super sweaty. He's like, "This sucks, Alfred. This just sucks."
Alfred, fetch me some tea.
Now, you were talking about how in Arkham Knight they lied to us about Joker. I actually really liked how they used Joker in Arkham Knight, where he's
I do. I like how they used them. I just don't like how they marketed the game.
right. I gotcha. I won't, if you haven't played Arkham Knight, I won't spoil anything. But I really like how Joker would just kind of how they used him. I can't say anything, I guess, more than
I've
that
played
without.
every Arkham game like 30
I
times.
know. Origins I've only played once, but because they remastered Asylum and City, I have played through those, and I even played through those games a couple times before they remastered them. But once they remastered them for
Hmm.
PlayStation 4, I have replayed those games. I actually the other day was thinking about starting Asylum over again because I think I love playing
Do it. Do
Asylum.
it. Asylum, to me, Asylum has the best feel,
Yeah.
like the best vibe out of all the games. Like it feels the most Batman. It feels kind of scary and eerie, and like when you hear that the Arkham Asylum chime over the
Yeah. Oh
intercom,
yeah.
like
Dun,
it's
dun,
very
dun,
unsettling.
dun. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Scarecrow levels, I think, were like when There's that one.
They were scary. They scared the hell out of me.
Yeah, they were scary, but there was also that one that made it feel like your system broke, where like you go back down the hallway and all of a sudden the whole screen just goes, and you're just like, what happened? And then you realize it's a scarecrow thing, and you're like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Yeah, I love that game, dude. But Arkham City improved, like getting to see more of Gotham was incredible. The fact that like they introduced the smoke bombs and stuff in Arkham City, they really improved upon the game, in my opinion. But I agree. I think Asylum has the best feel for sure.
Absolutely. Arkham City, to me, Arkham City is the best one out of the four. I say too. Four because a lot of people
dismiss Origins.
Don't count.
Yeah.
It's the redheaded stepchild of the series, but it counts. But yeah, Arkham City to me is the best one of the four, mainly because it has the best story of the four, in my opinion. And like you said, it took everything from the original game and capitalized on it and made it better and expanded it. And this was the first time we were in an open world Batman game. Like Gotham wasn't completely open, but it was open enough to where you could do whatever and go wherever. But it was,
you could visit Crime Alley and you know.
Yeah. But that, I mean, that's it's my favorite game of all time. So I've played that more than anything.
Yeah, you're making me want to play all of them again, really.
And then Arkham Knight
I really like, but
could have been the best one.
It could have been.
The story was not quite as good. It was very predictable, and there were too many tank battles.
There were too many tank battles. That's my biggest complaint, and that's part of the, like, I have been replaying Arkham Knight. Not a whole lot, but when I've got the time, I'll sit down and play a little bit. And it feels like
all the way until you get up into a tank battle.
Yeah, pretty much. But at the same time, it feels like you do like one mission, and then the very next thing is a tank battle, and you're like, oh my god. So it's just, there were way too many tank battles in that game. I loved having the Batmobile be a part of it, but they should have just figured out how to utilize that better or something. Yeah, because there were too many tank battles. But I love, because they made the world even bigger. You know, you got to go through all of Gotham basically, and I love a lot of those set pieces that, the old movie studio and all that stuff. I don't know. It's just Arkham Knight could have been the best one, but I agree. I think Arkham City, in my opinion, is the best out of the series.
No, for sure. And I think that was the first game that I had played that was made on Unreal Engine 5 or 4, whatever the one that had come out at that time. But it, like, I was like, this is one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen in my life. Like the detail in that game is ridiculous. I was if Arkham City had been made with Unreal Engine, with that version of Unreal Engine, bruh.
Wow.
That would have been the best game ever made.
Yeah. I remember buying, because they decided they were not going to release Arkham Knight on PS3 because they needed, the updated everything. So that was like the main reason I bought a PS4, was so I could play Arkham Knight, because I wanted to play it so badly. All right. Well, back to Batman Year One, I guess. I got a little distracted, but still kind of on topic, talking about Batman. I guess I got one other question for you. How do you feel about Selina Kyle's storyline, where she's basically starts off as a prostitute in this film, which is an interesting take on Selina.
I won't say I always assume, but in most iterations, I know she's a cat burglar, but her being a lady of the night, I would not put it past her.
Right.
Like in the Batman, it's assumed that she does that kind of thing, like
within the club and stuff like that.
Yeah, like within the club, and then when Batman is watching her at her apartment, she opens up her thing, and obviously, she uses that as as Catwoman, but she could be using that for other extracurricular activities.
Right. That's true. I think it works within the context of this movie because it also shows just how far Gotham has like fallen. Basically, it's like there's children who are being prostitutes in this movie and stuff, and so that's obviously and so it's kind of interesting seeing her start off that way and then decide she's going to go into a different line of work, which is end up being cat burglaring and stuff. And I like how she takes that young girl under her wing, and she's very protective of her and stuff, and gets her out of it as well because she ends up like punching the pimp, and so
I've always loved the idea of Selena having a friend or a confidant, somebody that she looks after. It makes her more complex. They always portray Catwoman as the femme fatale, but she can be very, very caring and maternal and very comforting in a way, which is why Batman kind of opens up to her whenever we see them together.
Right.
So
yeah, I wonder if this comic was the first time that we saw Bruce portraying Bruce Wayne as a much different character than Batman. You think about like the old Adam West TV show. There really was no difference between Bruce Wayne and Batman. And I know Kevin Conroy talks about how he was the first one to actually do a different voice for Bruce Wayne versus Batman, which I think is true. But in this comic, we see Bruce Wayne pretending to be a kind of sleazy, playboy billionaire who doesn't care about anything but himself. And he's doing that obviously to throw Gordon off his scent because Gordon, actually it's Essen really, but Gordon thinks that Bruce Wayne might be the Batman. And so he goes kind of far. And I like how Gordon even says, well, if I was dressing up as the Batman every night, I might go to extremes to kind of try to throw people off our scent. But it's Barbara who is like, no, I think he's just a terrible person. And then Gordon's like, okay, all right. And that's when he ends up confessing to her. But I wonder if in any comic before this comic that Frank Miller wrote, if that had ever been done, Bruce Wayne being portrayed as a completely kind of different. Because I think you think about a lot of comics, or even like I said, the Adam West show, Bruce Wayne is always a very respected and respectable kind of member of society. But in this, he's willing to throw his Bruce Wayne name into the dirt so that way he can continue doing what he needs to do as Batman.
Yeah. So you're saying like, was this the first iteration of Bruce Wayne being a playboy and like being like,
or at least pretending to be,
like the antithesis of everything that Batman
right?
is?
Yeah.
I would be inclined to say yes. I don't remember any version of Batman and Bruce Wayne being that extreme on the opposite end of the spectrum, but I'm inclined to say yes.
That's my thought too, is that this probably was. I don't know, I don't obviously know the comics from the 70s and everything at all, really, or I was going to say very well, but
70s.
So there may have been other than the fact that he's Blue Batman and looked cool, but I don't know if he was ever portrayed that way. I think Frank Miller kind of introduced a lot of that, and I don't know, but like I said, I could be wrong, but I just am inclined to think that that's probably true. And it makes sense. I mean, it's one of those things that, like, Clark Kent, obviously, and Clark Kent is probably not necessarily always portrayed vastly different than Superman. He certainly isn't in live action adaptations. You think about, like, the new show, which I love, Superman and Lois, there's no difference between Superman and Clark Kent other than the glasses.
Even Henry Cavill,
there's no difference.
Watching BVS, it's sometimes it's kind of funny because it's like, how do people not know that you're Superman, bro?
Exactly.
Like you are walking around super,
right?
You can't. like slump your shoulders a bit, put your head, do
Something.
something. Like,
Yeah.
like you are, like you're like he literally always walks around like he not I don't say owns the world, but he like it,
He keeps
Superman
the
is
confidence
definitely
that he
the
has as
real.
Superman. Yeah.
Yeah. Superman
Yeah.
is definitely the real person. He can't not be
Yes.
Superman in within that
Right.
universe. Same thing with Tyler Hoechlin. Like he can't
Right.
not be Superman.
Right. And it's, and even on Lois and Clark, Dean Cain, there was really no difference between Dean Cain's Clark Kent and Dean Cain's Superman. They were they were
A
the
little
same
bit
character
of
too.
a little bit of a difference. Not a whole lot, but
Not a
a
whole lot.
little bit of a difference.
Not to the extent that Christopher Reeve did. Christopher
No.
Reeve set the gold standard, in my opinion,
Yeah.
and I would, if have you seen the documentary, What Happened to Superman Lives? I think is the name of it, which is all about
No.
So there's some test footage of Nicolas Cage in his Clark Kent outfit, and he talks about how he's gonna like slump his shoulders and talk to Lois. He's like, "Hey, Lois, are you gonna go to the blah 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 awards or whatever?" And it's just you could see that there was going to be a big difference between his Clark Kent and his Superman, and I know that movie would have been probably the weirdest, craziest Superman movie of all time. But I really wish I could have seen it because I think Nicolas Cage, his performance would have been something to watch anyway. And he had a great look for Clark Kent too, man. He was like the like suit coat on, but like a t-shirt underneath, and he had the long hair. He was going to be a long hair Superman. So it was just it was an interesting look for Clark Kent. It would have been really, I don't know, it would have been interesting. It would have been different for sure.
I agree. I think that what would be interesting is like a more socially awkward type Clark Kent, like a Clark Kent that because oftentimes, like you said, Christopher Reeve set the gold standard. So oftentimes we see a very shy Clark Kent. I kind of want to get away from the shy Clark Kent and just allowing him to be someone who is unaware how socially awkward he is.
Right.
Most versions of Clark Kent, he knows how awkward he is because he's putting on a persona.
Right.
But for the next Superman we get, I would hope that they like lean into Clark Kent being the real person, and he's just so awkward, and it's hard for him to hard for him to turn it
Fit
off when
in.
he's not Superman.
Oh, yeah, that would be interesting for sure. I like the idea of Clark Kent being socially awkward, but also I don't mind him being shy because I like the idea of him being forgettable, which I think is what he strived. At least I think that's kind of what almost Christopher Reeve's character kind of strived for. Is he wanted people to, even if they saw him, once they stopped talking to him or whatever, just instantly forget about him. And so I like that idea, but that doesn't work for Bruce Wayne because Bruce Wayne is this billionaire CEO. He's in the spotlight. He's basically a celebrity.
Yeah.
And so he can't be invisible. So he's got to go in a completely different direction, which I think is great that they do this in this movie and in Batman Begins so well, where he's just the partier, got two girls on, one girl on each arm, and, just people are like, oh God, here's Bruce. He's like, they don't want to spend time with him because, they don't like his personality.
Yeah.
But little do they know. I gotta say, Gordon, this scene just came on again. Gordon's got he's brave, man. His kid gets kidnapped. His wife's standing there, and he still tries to shoot the kidnappers, and he does hit him and saves Barbara, but then the guy drives away with his kid.
Yeah.
And dude, Bryan Cranston, when they're on the bridge and little James falls off the bridge, and he yells,
"Oh my God."
He yells no. He gives that his all. Like I could just see him in the audio booth just screaming. Because some people, when they're doing, not all voice. There's a lot of amazing voice actors. Don't get me wrong, But I feel like
Mm-hmm.
maybe some of these like TV and film actors who are put into voice acting roles, they don't necessarily give it their all on the microphone. You know, they would have gone like, I can't do it right now. I don't want to yell in my,
Yeah.
but you know, they wouldn't have given it that oomph. But Bryan Cranston, man, you can feel it when he yells
Yeah.
no, when his
Yeah.
kid falls. Oh my gosh, such a good performance.
Yeah. Very, very good. Very good. And I think that's because on screen actors are they kind of have to hold back unless
Right.
they're like directed to not hold back. But with voice acting, you're not you're not conscious about your outward appearance because it's all about what you sound like.
Right.
So you do what your body just does whatever it needs to
Yeah.
do in order to get the correct sound out. So I think that is a very interesting thing between live action on screen and voice actors. And the thing about what's her name? Andrea Romano. Even though I don't think she was a casting director for this, but was she?
She was. Yep.
She was?
She was actually. Yep.
Oh, okay. But what the thing that she does phenomenally is that she made the conscious choice to cast actors for the voices of the characters. Like she cast people who know how to act regardless of the medium. An actor is an actor.
Mm-hmm.
Um because for her at least I've heard that she didn't want to cast just voice actors for the sake of casting voice actors because at that time when they were making Batman the animated series and stuff like that, like a lot of voice actors tended to be kind of uh like overly cartoony. And for
Right. Right.
for the kind of projects that she does, they're they have a little bit more realism to them, even though they're like high fantasy. They really have a little bit more groundedness to them. So she casts actors who are like believable and are that that are gonna give it their all in that role.
Mm-hmm.
So um yeah, so yeah, Bryan Cranston, he just he embodies that. He's a fantastic actor, so it translates well to voice acting.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think Andrea Romano is she's retired now, but she was the greatest
Yeah,
in terms
she's
of
a legend.
choosing. Yeah,
She's a
she
legend.
is absolutely, and she does a fantastic job of casting like the perfect person for the role. And it's interesting too because like she obviously found Kevin Conroy, but she casts like so many of these DC movies, so she's constantly finding new actors to play Batman, new actors to play Gordon,
Mm-hmm.
and she does.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from Ben McKenzie in this, who again I don't think is a bad actor, I just think was wrong for the role of Bruce Wayne / Batman. She knocks it out of the park just about every time. And with
Absolutely.
this movie, again, John Polito as Commissioner Loeb, amazing. Alex Rocco as Falcone, like incredible. Like she knocked it out of the park with
Yes.
this movie too. I just would have maybe chosen somebody else for Batman.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%.
Well, Stu, I guess let's go into a rating. I'll go first this time. I really enjoy this movie. I think it's really good. I think it has maybe a couple flaws, like I said, the Ben McKenzie thing. And also just the Selena Kyle storyline. Like I said, doesn't really feel like it gets wrapped up. She gets called Batman's assistant, and she's like, assistant? And then that's the last time we see her, I think. I've played the movie right here, and the credits are rolling, so I'm pretty sure that's the case. So
Yeah.
just kind of a weird storyline with her. But for me, I think it's Bryan Cranston especially just elevates this movie. And
Absolutely.
for me, I'm not gonna go too high, but for me, it's a 4 out of 5. Little baby James. I don't know. I couldn't think of anything.
Oh man. Little baby James. Wow.
4 out of 5.
I agree with everything you said. I'm gonna go with a 4 out of 5 as well.
Yeah.
Just 4 out of 5 stars. I'm not Saying Baby J.
Not gonna come up with anything. All right, fair enough. Well, that's cool. I think we both really like this movie, so definitely worth watching for sure. Well, we'd love to know what you think about Batman Year One. You can always let us know at cinemaheroes.com. You can also leave us a comment on our Instagram or tweet at us. Both handles are at cinemaheroes. You can always leave a comment on this video if you are watching it on YouTube, and if you are, give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. I think that about wraps it up for this episode, though. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm Jake Stu.
As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.